I'd like to welcome our panelists on stage. We have Deepesh Nayanar, Ryan Saba, Amy Atchley, and Steve Mentzer. Okay, as we all love to talk about ourselves, let's try and do 30-second introductions. Deepesh?
Yeah, sure. I'll keep it short. So I'm Deepesh Nayanar. I'm with Konect, and as Neil said, that's our eMobility business within Gilbarco Veeder-Root. I'm responsible for our fleet business globally, which for us means North America and Europe today, primarily. I won't go into the history of Gilbarco Veeder-Root. I think Neil covered it pretty well. But one thing I do want to say is from the previous panel, I think one of the panelists said, when you go to a gas pump, you expect that the pump's going to work. When you go and switch on that light, you expect the light's going to work. We are the ones who've been keeping those gas pumps at work for 150 years. So what we're trying to attempt to do is make sure as this fledgling e-mobility industry kind of gets to scale, maturity, and reliability, we are the ones kind of help moving that ball forward.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Amy Atchley. I am with Austin Energy. It is the local municipal utility here, city-owned utility here in Austin, Texas. We are the third largest city-owned public utility in the United States. And so I'm on the electric vehicles and emerging technologies team, and I've been with the team now for about 8 years. My role is the EV Equity Development Manager. And my role has been very focused on ensuring as we're having this massive paradigm shift in technology and particularly in mobility, that communities and people are not left behind. And the way that we do that is we build frameworks of equity from the bottom up, ensuring that we have communities of color, we have disadvantaged community members, we have everyday people that are participating in this movement, and we do it through not only individual ownership, but also through the ecosystem of mobility, which includes fleets such as our public transit. So I look forward to this panel and providing the utility perspective.
Good afternoon, everybody. Ryan Saba, Energy Solutions Manager for Mack Trucks. I lead the efforts from both a strategic perspective and a customer implementation perspective to support our dealer partners. We've got 400 plus dealer locations in the US and Canada, and also with our customers to really help make this transition to operating heavy-duty and medium-duty electric trucks a reality. We have the LRE, the Mack refuse vehicle that's been in serial production since 2021. We also have the medium-duty electric Class 6, Class 7 that's been in serial production since 2023. So, the Volvo Group in North America and Mack Trucks specifically really is at the forefront from a heavy-duty perspective and really leading the charge when it comes to helping our customers meet their sustainability goals. And I play a critical piece of that. So it's very, very exciting to be here with all of you today.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Mentzer, and I'm with First Services. I started my career in the mid-'80s at General Motors, and it was all about the internal combustion engine. Ice, ice, baby, right? And so we're having a lot of fun now as we transition to electric. And what I do is I try to help school districts evaluate the incentive funding that's available to determine whether or not this is something that they want to do now, later, and then kind of help them through that from the whole concept, initial concept, through to the deployment, and in some cases we actually help support their operations. And our own fleet, we have 46,600 vehicles. We're trying to convert 30,000 of those to electric by 2030. So we're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for our electric school buses, and we're trying to get there and try to help school districts make that shift in mindset from looking at their bus as a transportation asset to an energy asset moving forward.
I love it. Thanks, everyone. I forgot to introduce myself. I was too busy making jokes. Tricia Meier, I'm a Senior Director for eMobility Transformation at EY. Be forewarned, if you talk with me about electric vehicles, it'll be at least 20 minutes before you get to walk away. Deepesh, let's go ahead and start with you. I'd like to hear what some of the most significant challenges customers face when deploying large-scale EV infrastructure. How can companies best address these during both the initial setup and ongoing operations?
Got it, thank you. So I think Neil teed up a bit of this on the slide deck that you just saw. There was a picture or graphic in there that showed you our view of the process. So we've been in this about 6 or 7 years now, and we believe there are two sets of customers. There are early stage customers and mature customers. And unfortunately, given how nascent the market is, even if people have 100 years of fleet experience, their experience in this space is still young. So we think about 90% of the customers are early stage customers, and their problems are a little different than the mature customers. And for early stage customers, one of the big pieces is really getting planning and planning at the right time. In fact, Steve and I, we were just chatting before we came up on stage, and he kind of reiterated an example of where they're trying to deploy some vehicles and the infrastructure is not there yet. This is a very common problem. We work with Volvo and Mack trucks. Ryan is a good partner of ours. Common problem we see that people are so focused on buying the vehicles. So that's the first problem is, how do I find the vehicles? Where are they, right? As in vehicle availability has been a problem for different classes of vehicles. Your second problem then is, based on those vehicles, what kind of charging infrastructure should I deploy? Not just for today, but if I kind of fast forward 3 or 4 years, what does that deployment need to look like, and making decisions today that kind of work with that. And then third is where a lot of our folks in this room solve for that problem, and the previous speaker spoke as well, which is around making sure I have power at the site. And that is, I would say, the power at the site becomes a very critical problem to solve, and all the other problems, I guess, are big enough, but that's the critical piece. As you get into more mature customers, now they've deployed a few sites, they've got a few years under their belt, and so now there are other pain points that start surfacing, and that's really around not, the first 3 problems, they still exist for new sites, but they understand what that is. But now they understand that charger reliability, charger uptime, that's a big piece, because now they've run these chargers for a few years, and they know that, in this industry, and like in any mechanical product, things fail, but this industry is a little early stage. So I've got to make sure, A, I'm working on the right products, B, those product configs are set up for my use cases and application, right? And fleets have a very diverse set of use cases, as I'm assuming the audience knows here. So you've got to make sure you're covering all those bases. And then really being able to optimize your energy consumption, because when you first started, you didn't realize how energy intensive it is, or maybe you did. But once you start getting those bills, then you for sure know you need better management and control. And what do I do to solve for that? And there are different solves to be able to manage the energy. So it's really around picking as they get mature, is charger operations, managing energy, and really working with a reliable partner who can be on their journey, because the space is so fluid. People have been falling in and out of the space. So how do you kind of stay with a partner who's going to stay with you, not just for your first deployment, but 3-5 years down the line?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Completely agree. I think that education is such a, I would say, breaking the barrier for first entrants into the market versus those that are more mature in their charging solutions. Absolutely. Thank you. Amy, I'd like to come to you next. As you mentioned, Austin ranks 3rd best in the city in the U.S. for EV readiness and charging infrastructure. What lessons can other cities or commercial fleet operators learn from Austin's approach to deploying equitable, accessible, scalable, and efficient charging solutions?
Well, let me just level set a bit. So the work that we're doing at Austin Energy, the EV team, is we are working to support city goals. Because we're a public power, we're pretty much city-owned, and the City Council has put forth a new climate equity plan that was designed not just by industry experts, not just by our government here, but also by just regular people. Our community-based organizations had a seat at the table. Everyday people who had concerns that wanted to be a part of this. There was over 500 hours collected in the design of this plan from just our regular citizens here. And our underserved community had a seat at this table to design that. And so that is really helping us to inform how do we bring this new technology to people of the community. We are working on these city goals to be net zero by 2040, net zero emissions, that is. And so the translation of that into transportation is that that we need to have 40% of our vehicles, electric miles traveled on the road, need to be electric by 2030. So that means that we're going to have to incorporate not just early adopters, but everyone needs to be a piece of this. And so we are in the business of accelerating electric vehicle adoption. And so maybe it's not about that individual ownership. Maybe it is about that ecosystem of eMobility. And we're talking about everything from electric bikes to our city buses here in Austin are going 100% electric. as well as our school, our local school district, which we've had very influential piece in that, from ideation, the concepts, all the way to implementation. And I'm so excited to say that they just launched in January the first 3 electric school buses for our youth, helping take care of our most precious cargo, our kids. So that is in progress. These things are moving along, and what's happening is it's normalizing the situation. And I want to take a quick moment to share a really great story of the way that you create a sense of belonging in this movement of electric mobility. So our electric buses here in Austin, we have 16 on the road. They are going 100% electric. Austin Energy is providing the depot to charge those. Those vehicles are, just another side note, are vehicle to grid. Maybe we'll get into some of that. All of those electric buses are wrapped in student art. And so what happens is when those buses hit the road, they go in the neighborhoods that the children are putting the artwork onto these buses. And all of a sudden, mom and grandma and the next door neighbor are seeing the young people's art on this, and it becomes something very grassroots. It becomes an investment that the city has made in these communities, and it creates a sense of belonging. And that's really what we're after here is we got to remember that what we're designing for, what we're doing is for people. Okay, so instead of just solutions that we think are amazing, we're designing for people. So how do we bring everyone along?
I love that. Thank you. I'm sure no one here took a school bus to the summit today, but did anyone take an electric vehicle or one of the EV scooters? Good. About 10, 20% of the room. That's fantastic. Thank you, Amy. Ryan, would love to talk about from an OEM perspective. How do you ensure that customers feel confident and comfortable during the transition to electric vehicles, especially as you adapt your business after 125 years of heritage?
Yeah, look, there's customers range from some of the major mega fleets that sort of have their own internal dedicated resources that are focused on charging infrastructure, all the way to a small school, university, municipality, hospital system, or whatever that wants to operate 1 or 2 electric vehicles just to comply with some of the different changing regulations and guidelines that are out there, right? So, we kind of approach each opportunity the same way. We start with an advisory services session. I come in with some of the members of my team, depending on what the particular barriers to entry for that customer are. We sit down, we have a conversation, right? How many vehicles now? How many vehicles later? Duty cycles, dwell times, the whole 9 yards. And what we do is we start to remove some of the questions that the customers have, make the process just a little less complicated, right? Because the majority of our customers, as you said, right, Mack's been building trucks for 125 years. Our customers have never really had to worry about how they were going to fuel the vehicle before. So we remove the complexity, we understand what the customer's true charging requirements are, and then we start to bring in some of our strategic partnerships that we have. We've spent the last 3 or 4 years making a lot of friendships. Konect's one of them, right? Mack Trucks is focused, the Volvo Group in North America, Volvo Trucks, we make really good trucks, right? That people like to drive. That's where our brand equity lies. And we also went out and we got the Mack Trucks of the charging space, of the install space, of the uptime space when it comes to maintenance and operations of the chargers, right? So we found companies that have similar brand equity to ours so we can go to our customers and make them feel extremely comfortable with the transition. A down charger is a down truck, period. The charger is part of the uptime equation. And, I hate to say it, but it's not like a passenger vehicle, right? Your car doesn't work in the morning, it's not charged, you can call an Uber, there's other opportunities. When a heavy-duty truck is down or a medium-duty truck is down, it costs the owner of that business $1,500 a day. So if you've got a charger that's not going to work for 3 months, you can do the math on a fleet of, let's say, 500 trucks, 1,000 trucks. The cost is significant. So for us, we're really focused on uptime. We're focused on making the customers feel comfortable with the transition, and that's how we approach it.
That's great. Thank you. playing on your heritage, playing on the brand, ensuring that you are connecting with others that bring that same sense of reputation and loyalty. I think that's a fantastic message too. What I really want to know though is that with electric Mack trucks, is it still going to be a bulldog as the mascot, or are you going to have a Jetsons dog?
I got two questions in a row, so I don't. So look, I'm going to do this really quickly. You take a look at the bulldog on the front of a Mack vehicle, you can tell very, very quickly what that truck is. If it's a silver bulldog, it means that one of the components, whether it's the engine, the transmission, or the rear axle, is not proprietary. If it's a gold bulldog, you know that the engine, the transmission, and the rear axle are fully proprietary, and that's a genuine Mack vehicle. If you see a copper bulldog, copper shirt, copper bulldog right here, you know that's an electric Mack truck.
All right, gonna be on the lookout for the copper dogs
right.
now. I like that. Steve, how do you see EV charging solutions integrating with the existing grid to enhance energy efficiency? And what specific technologies or strategies are helping to manage this?
Okay, well, that's a lot. First of all, I should say that at First Student, we're a transportation services provider. So as we make our transition to electric, we run the risk of losing a contract. If a school district is trying to shave dollars, we may lose a contract. So what we've tried to do is develop an infrastructure solution that will allow us to take the assets with us. So rather than do a lot of trenching and digging, what we try to do is we try to deploy above ground. So we've designed a hub and spoke system, basically where we have all of the power management components sit inside a shipping container on a skid, and that's where your step-down transformers, your switchgear, your master switch, your panels, and everything will reside inside of that. And then we use construction barriers as kind of our distribution method for taking the energy from the source, the container, to distribute it through the yard to each one of the charging locations. What we've found is working with school districts, the biggest obstacle that they face is this notion of how do we electrify our yards? How do we distribute energy throughout our bus yards that we've been operating for decades as a diesel bus operation? Most of the incentive funding that's been made available has really focused on driving the cost down to offset the initial cost of purchase of the bus and the charger. So oftentimes that infrastructure piece kind of surprises the school districts. They're under the impression they're getting a free bus and a free charger. And then we say, well, to deploy these 15 or these 20 or these 25 school buses, this is what the infrastructure is going to cost. You know, by the way, it's going to be a 3 to 5 year project. And for those school districts that have already gone out into the public and talked about receiving these EPA rebates for electric school buses, it puts them in a really difficult position. So with our solution, we're able to help a lot of school districts kind of deploy fast, deploy year-round, do it at a lower cost, and if they want to, we can offer to them as a subscription. So I think you're going to see infrastructure as a service become more prevalent. And in terms of using the school bus as a mobile energy asset, I think you're going to start seeing more and more of those types of projects and more use cases where the bus becomes a mobile energy asset. We've signed a couple mutual aid agreements in the state of Illinois where the school buses can be used as an emergency energy resource. If the grid goes down for any reason, we can plug these in to buildings that are equipped with a bidirectional charger, and we can power those facilities for emergency responses, for senior care, hospitals and so forth by running the energy off the bus. And as we deplete them, we can just rotate buses in, so it becomes a pretty sustainable way in the short term to help provide energy where it's needed. And then in addition to that, we're seeing more and more school districts look at microgrid solutions, so trying to make sure that our power container will allow us to integrate things like solar fields. Battery energy storage systems are also quite expensive at this time, but a lot of school districts are concerned about the second life of the batteries. So as part of our solution, we have a socket and a chassis approach where we treat the batteries that are no longer have enough state of charge to power the motors, but can be used then to put energy back onto the grid during peak. So we're seeing it more as a resiliency component of microgrids. And we're actually going to be announcing soon here that we have a project with Konect where we're going to be seeing just how much we can use that bus as a kind of a resilient component of a microgrid. So we'll be hopefully reporting some data out to everyone soon how that's going. But I think school districts are going to find that there's a lot of different ways that they can utilize these buses through the vehicle to grid and vehicle to everything technology that's already available. And the utilities are starting to make more and more of these projects available in terms of pilots, but I think you're going to see these programs rolling out. And it's really exciting to see how much of the financial return comes back to the district once they start using the buses as an energy asset.
That's fantastic. Schools are always so underfunded, so it's wonderful that you've been able to find a new business model to bring money back into it, bring energy back into the grid, and help support it. So thank you all. Those are my formal questions, but I'd love to open it up to the audience. As a teaser, this is Amy's panel. We did hear from Bobby this morning that he has a few hats for the best questions of the group. Would anyone like to raise your hand? And Elliot will bring the microphone over to you. And Bobby will bring a hat.
Oh, let's go.
Okay.
So they win a prize?
They win a prize.
Could we up the prize to a Cybertruck?
Nothing says that test drive can't
trying to
last
make the
longer
mic
than
work.
today.
There we go.
It's working now.
How about now? Okay,
Yep.
great. Thank you. Austin Pooley, Center Point Energy, Houston Electric. This question mostly, I think, aimed at Steve. Are you talking about load management with school districts? And if so, what is kind of connecting with school districts about utilizing load management with their electrified school buses and kind of participating in the market in that way?
Yeah, what's great is a lot of these school districts already have a lot of data on the use of the vehicles when they're operating them as diesel. So we kind of can project, what their energy use is going to be, and then depending on how they utilize the bus, sometimes they'll do 2 tiers or 3 tiers. So that bus is operating pretty much throughout the day. So we'll take a look at different ways we can manage their charging and stuff like that. So in terms of the load management, we're really looking at basically what's the best match of charging solutions to charging schedules. And then in some cases, we've had issues with chargers where we've really had to rely on the charge management software. We've had some issues as an early adopter in the School of Hard Knocks. We've had chargers that were located too close together, and they were starting to create some interference between each other. So we thought we were charging at 100% capacity. Found out that we were charging at about 30 or 40% capacity. So having a good software solution in place is really important. But we try to work with the district so they understand when the best time is to grab juice off the grid. And I don't know if I answered your question, but do you want to dial it in a little bit better for me?
I guess how are you talking about the value proposition of load management? Is it shaving peak load? Is it just shifting the load to different hours that are cheaper than other hours? What is the value proposition that you're pitching?
You're right. And actually, load management is actually just a small part of the value proposition. We look at the lower cost of maintenance on the vehicles, lower cost per mile, and all of those kind of things. But yeah, so we have to understand the rates, tariffs, all those kind of things, so we can kind of advise the school that, this is how you can manage your spend on the electric side. So I apologize.
Can I chime in real quick? And I do thank you for bringing that point up, because we really are looking at grid resilience when we're talking about all of these transportation electrification programs coming into fruition. And so one of the things that we're doing just in a grassroots way is we are working with our customers, and we have deployed some managed charging programs. And it really is teaching all of us in this new world of alternative mobility, like, how are we going to support this? What can we do? And it really is about time of use and making sure that we are charging these vehicles. Electric school buses are a perfect use case for that, because they're not on the roads at night typically. So it really is that time of use and when's the best time to charge.
And I apologize. I had some numbers here that might help you a little bit. So a small rural district in southern Illinois, 5 buses. They operate them for about 2 months. The diesel cost would have been about $16,823. They have a solar field, 1.2 megawatts. So they don't use it for 100% of the energy needs of the buses, but it only cost them $913, which was about 16,000 in savings, right? So that's usually where the conversations center and focus on. So if they have assets that they can take advantage of, then the conversation becomes a lot more attractive to them.
Excellent. Thank you.
We really like that question, so I think he deserves a hat. Okay, we are almost out of time, but the fantastic news is we have a short keynote after this and then lunch, so please be sure to seek out the panelists, especially, Copper. I think Ryan's all charged up. Do we have time for one more question?
One more.
Yes, Jill. Would you like my microphone, Jill?
Thank you, Tricia. This question might be a little off-grid, so forgive me if it is. But for the drivers of the electric trucks, the electric buses, maybe anecdotally or otherwise, is there any reports of improvements in mental well-being? Because that happens in the UK, actually, with electric van drivers.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's an excellent question. Once we get a driver in an electric truck, it's really difficult to get them out of it. I think there's obviously some anticipated improvements, but there's others as well unanticipated. The noise, the vibration, the fumes, right? The fumes from the diesel over extended period of time. I mean, look, I'm not a doctor, so by all means, but there's potential for some long-term health benefit improvements as well. The driver's report of coming home, feeling less tired, their bodies don't ache as much. The driver piece of it is a critical component, and the decision makers at the fleets and with our customers, they talk to the drivers about it. How do you like it? How does it feel? Because it's funny. You'll bring the truck for the first time, they'll be like, I'm not driving that. I'm not driving it. It's not my Mack, right? And then they go out on a couple routes, you come back 2 weeks later and like, oh my God, I love this truck so much, right? So that's a really great question, and I think it's always fun to see that transition.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists. I'd like to go ahead and release you from the stage. Please, everyone, feel free to search them out over lunch and networking.